Okay, so we're going to start off with our cup. Now I've already melted 2 tablespoons of butter in this cup. So to that we're just going to add in 1 egg yolk and a small amount of vanilla extract, just for extra taste. Then 2 tablespoons of white sugar, a tablespoon of brown sugar. If you don't have brown sugar, just replace with white sugar, but brown sugar just gives it a much nicer taste. And I've seen other people do this in one container, then they've mixed it, then put it into the mug. Honestly, that is completely pointless and doubles your wash up. So just mix it all into the mug that you're going to serve it in. Next, we're going to add in 4 tablespoons of flour, then a tablespoon of cocoa powder, and then about 2 tablespoons of chocolate chips. Then using a teaspoon, it's going to give it a very good mix through, just until it's completely combined. Okay, so once done, we're going to place this into the microwave for 45 seconds. And if you find that it's not done after 45 seconds, just put it on for an extra 5 seconds at a time until it's done. Okay, and there we have it, our brownie in a cup. So that literally took me a minute to make and less than a minute in the microwave. So it really does not get any simpler and easier than that. But what matters most is, how does it taste? Let's give one a try. Oh, it's nice and moist too. Oh, that is so good. It is chocolatey, fluffy. As you can see, it looks pretty nice in there. And it is still nice and warm. So even though it only took me 2 minutes to make, it tastes simply delish. Now this is certainly the easiest cupcake recipe I have ever made, yet it's also incredibly tasty too, because you only need a simple 3 ingredients. And to start off with, we're going to add in 1 cup of Nutella, followed by 3/4 of a cup of self-raising flour. Of course, if you only have normal flour, just add about a teaspoon of baking powder to it. And finally, 2 eggs. And with a hand or stand mixer, give it a good mix until it's completely combined. Now that it's all mixed through, I have some cupcake holders here, and we're just going to fill each one 3/4 of the way up with our mix. Okay, once done, I'm going to place it into a preheated oven at 180 degrees Celsius or 350 degrees Fahrenheit for about 25 minutes, and you'll know they're ready when you tap them on top and they spring back. And there we have our lovely and delicious 3 ingredient Nutella cupcakes. Now I've just placed a bit more Nutella on top just to spruce it up a little bit, but it's still part of the 3 ingredients, so it still counts. So it's come out as a very fluffy yet delicious texture. The great thing about this is there's also no added sugar, apart from of course what's in the Nutella. And for 3 ingredients and about 2 or 3 minutes to prepare, you can't go wrong because these Nutella cupcakes taste simply delish. Okay, so we're going to start this recipe off with our chocolate buttons. You can use any type of chocolate that you like, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to place this into the microwave for 30 seconds at a time on high, and we're going to stir it each time until it's melted. Okay, next into a mixing bowl, I'm going to place in 1 cup or 2 sticks of butter. Now it's very important this butter is at room temperature so it's easy to mix, and to that we're going to add in 2 cups of brown sugar. Now using a hand mixer or a stand mixer, we're going to beat this up until it's nice and fluffy. Okay, so our butter and brown sugar is nice and fluffy. Now to that we're going to place in 4 eggs and 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. Now we're just going to mix that through until it's well combined. Now that that's mixed in, we're going to pour in our melted chocolate. Now we're going to mix that through until it's well combined. And finally we're just going to add in 1 cup of flour. And try not to overmix this, we're going to mix it in until it's just combined. Okay, next I have a baking tray here lined with non-stick baking paper. And to that we're just going to pour in our brownie mixture. Okay, next we're going to place this into a preheated oven at about 160 degrees Celsius or about 320 degrees Fahrenheit for 35 minutes. Okay, so the brownie mix is out of the oven and it's cooling down. So as one final step, we're going to make our cookie dough mixture. So into a mixing bowl, we're going to place in our softened butter. Now that was 3/4 of a cup worth. And to that, 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar and 3/4 of a cup of white sugar and 3 tablespoons of milk. Now we're going to mix this all together until it's well combined and nice and creamy. Okay, now that it is all nice and creamy, we're going to place in 2 cups of plain flour and we're going to mix that through until it's well combined. Okay, now that it's well combined, last step we're just going to add in our chocolate chips. And we're just going to mix that through until it's just combined. Okay, so we have our brownie mix. So all we have to do now is place our cookie dough mixture on top of the brownie mix. Okay, now that's done, we're just going to place it in the fridge for about an hour or so, just to give a chance for the cookie dough mixture to set. And there we have our cookie dough brownies. So yet another very simple slice type recipe to make, but proof is in the pudding. Oh, yum, yum. Oh, that is just fantastic. You have that lovely brownie taste with that incredible cookie dough mixture. These cookie dough brownies taste simply delish. Okay, so we're going to start by mixing half of our ingredients. So into a mixing bowl, we're going to put in our 2 eggs and a cup of sugar and a couple of teaspoons of vanilla extract. And we're going to mix that through for a few minutes until it's all well combined. Okay, so while everything is mixing away, I have a pot on the stove on a medium heat. So to that I'm going to put in 5 tablespoons of butter, or about 60 grams worth. And our white chocolate. Now for the total recipe, I'm using 1.5 cups of white chocolate. But what I want you to do is divide it into 2 lots. So you're going to have half in this pot melting away with the butter, and we're going to have another half set aside for later. So just mix this just until the chocolate and the butter is completely melted. But make sure you continuously stir this, otherwise you can burn the chocolate. Okay, so once the chocolate and the butter is completely melted, just take it straight off the heat. Okay, so everything is nice and creamed up here. So we have our chocolate and butter mixture. Now they'll never fully combine. You can just mix them as much as you possibly can. But while it's at this stage, we're just going to place it straight into our mixing bowl. And we're going to mix that through for a couple of minutes, just until everything is well combined. Okay, now that it's all well combined, to that we're going to add in 1 cup of self-raising flour. Now if you don't have self-raising flour, just use 1 cup of normal plain flour and add about half a teaspoon of baking powder. And then to that, about a pinch of salt, which just helps enhance the flavour. And we're just going to mix that through. Okay, now I've got the rest of our chocolate chips just in a Ziploc bag here. And we're just going to just break them up, just lightly break them up. Okay, so now with our white chocolate, we're just going to place that into the mixing bowl and just mix it through just for a couple of seconds, just until it's combined with the mixture. Okay, next I've just got a baking dish here. I've just lined it with some non-stick baking paper. And just make sure you have some hanging over the side because it just makes it easier to pull up. So now it's just a simple matter of pouring our brownie mixture into our baking pan. Okay, so now we're going to place this into a preheated oven at 180 degrees Celsius or about 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 20 to 25 minutes. Okay, so as you can see, they're out of the oven and I've let them cool down for about an hour and I've just cut them into some squares. Now as you can see, this is a thin brownie type recipe, but if you want them a little bit thicker, just use a smaller pan. But with this recipe, you don't want to make them too thick, otherwise they just won't cook properly in the center. Now they do look a little boring like this, so what I've done is I've melted some more white chocolate. Now this chocolate is above and beyond the chocolate that I've got in the description, so a little bit extra, and I've just placed into a Ziploc bag. So just going to cut the corner off the Ziploc bag and just make some patterns on your brownies. And there we have it, our white chocolate brownies. Now that was a very simple recipe, a very easy recipe, but I can tell you it's going to be a very tasty recipe. So for a little Christmas twist on a traditional recipe, you need to give this a go because it will taste fantastic. But let's try one. Oh, that's fantastic. It is slightly more moist than a normal brownie, but keep in mind I did throw in that extra white chocolate at the end, and that has worked itself into that mixture beautifully. But as brownies go, this white chocolate brownie tastes simply delish. Now we're going to start this pie off by making our base. So into a mixing bowl, we're going to place in 1.5 cups of crushed up cookies. Now I've just put these through a food processor, but you can also use a Ziploc bag and a rolling pin. Then to that I'm going to add in 1/3 a cup of sugar and 6 tablespoons or 90 grams of melted butter. And we just simply give it a good stir until everything is nicely combined. Next I have a greased springform pan that I've just lined the base with non-stick baking paper. So we're just going to pour our base mixture into the pan and using the base of a flat cup, just even it out and just compact it down just like so. Okay, and now for our brownie mixture. So into a bowl I'm going to pour in 10 tablespoons or 150 grams of melted butter, then 1/4 cup or 250 grams of sugar, then 3/4 of a cup of cocoa powder, and just a small amount of salt just to help enhance the flavour. Now just give that a quick mix around, and once you've mixed it around we're going to place it into the microwave for about 30 seconds just to give it a chance to warm that butter back up and help everything dissolve nicely. Okay, so I've just transferred it to a mixing bowl. Now it still looks a little gritty, that's fine, that's exactly how you want it. So at this point we're just going to add just some vanilla extract. And then we've got 2 eggs, but we're going to add 1 at a time. Then we're going to beat that through. And once it's mixed through, we're going to add the second egg. Okay, so it's been thoroughly mixed through. As you can see, it is nice and shiny. So to that, I'm just going to add in 1/2 cup of regular plain flour. And we don't want to overmix this. We want to mix it through just for a few seconds until it's just combined. Okay, so now back to our base. We're just going to carefully pour our brownie mixture into our springform pan. Okay, so now we're going to place this into a preheated oven at 170 degrees Celsius or about 325 degrees Fahrenheit for 28 minutes. Okay, so I've just taken it out of the oven, and the best way to check it is if you stick a wooden skewer inside and it comes out clean, that means it's ready. Now as our final step, I have some marshmallows that I'm just going to sprinkle on top. And we just want to evenly cover the top of our brownie pie. Okay, so once done, we're going to place this back in the oven. It's going to take about 3 to 5 minutes, but keep an eye on it. We want to take it out just as the marshmallows have started to melt. And there's the finished product, our s'mores brownie pie. Now as pies go, this definitely has all the layers that you will love. You have that lovely cookie base, and slapped in between with that lovely brownie slice, topped off with those half melted marshmallows. This s'mores brownie pie is going to taste simply delish. So we're going to start this incredibly simple fudge recipe off by placing all of our ingredients into the bowl at the same time. So we're going to start off with 1 cup of Nutella, followed by about 65 grams worth of plain flour, and 2 eggs. And we're going to beat this up for a good 3 to 4 minutes until it's completely combined. Okay, next I'm going to use 3 standard size Mars bars. Now if you don't have Mars bars in your country, basically they're like a fudgy type consistency down the bottom, and they have that caramel top up the top there. So just use anything that's very similar to that. So we're just going to place our 3 chopped up Mars bars into our mix, and just mix it through for about, say, 3 seconds just to combine. Now finally, I have a baking dish here that I've just lined with non-stick baking paper. So it's just a simple matter of placing our mix into our baking dish. Okay, now that's done, we're going to place this into a preheated oven at 180 degrees Celsius or 360 degrees Fahrenheit for 30 minutes. And there we have our lovely and delicious Nutella caramel fudge brownies. So as you can see, it was most certainly one of the easiest fudge brownies you could possibly make. But when you add Nutella and caramel together, you know for certain, without even trying, that these are going to taste simply delish. Now first of all, we're going to need 1 shot of espresso coffee. Now if you don't have an espresso machine, just simply dissolve 1 tablespoon of coffee in a little bit of hot water. Now that we have our espresso coffee, I'm going to pour that into a mixing bowl. And then to that I'm going to pour in 1/2 cup or 1 stick of melted butter, followed by 2 eggs, 1 cup of sugar, and a pinch of salt. Now using a hand mixer or a stand mixer, we're going to beat this through until the sugar's dissolved. Okay, now that our sugar is dissolved, I'm going to pour in about a teaspoon of vanilla extract, half a cup of self-raising flour, or plain flour with a dash of baking powder, and 1/3 a cup of cocoa powder. Now just simply mix it through until it's combined. Now finally I have a lined baking tray. So just simply pour our brownie mixture into our tray. Now we're going to place this into a preheated oven at 180 degrees Celsius or 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 30 minutes. Now I've taken our brownie out of the oven and I have it cooling down on a wire rack. So while it's cooling, we're going to make the topping. So into a mixing bowl, I'm going to place in 1/4 cup of Nutella. Now what I've done is I've put this Nutella in the microwave just to soften it up for 20 seconds. And then to that I'm going to add another shot of espresso. Now just give it a quick whisk until it's completely combined. And next into a separate bowl, I'm going to place in about 1 cup of thickened or whipping cream. Now simply whip this away until you form stiff peaks. Okay, now that we've formed stiff peaks, we're going to grab our coffee and Nutella mixture and we're just going to slowly pour it in until it's all combined. Okay, lastly our brownie has completely cooled down, so we're just going to put our lovely Nutella and espresso topping just on top. Now we're just going to place this in the fridge for about half an hour just to set up a little bit, and then it's ready to cut up. And look at those, don't they look lovely? Now just to dress them up a little bit more, I've just put some shredded dark chocolate on top. Now these really are an incredible indulgence, especially with a mixture of that coffee and Nutella. But with a name like Nutella, Espresso, Mousse, Brownies, you know, with all those words together, these are going to taste simply delish. So we're going to start this off by melting some chocolate. So I have 6 ounces here, or 170 grams of chocolate chips. And to that I'm going to add half a cup or 1 stick of butter. And we're going to place this into the microwave for 30 seconds at a time and give it a good stir each time until it's completely melted and well combined. Now I've just taken the chocolate out of the microwave, and while it's cooling down a little bit, into a mixing bowl I'm going to place in 6 eggs, followed by 2.5 cups of sugar and a couple of teaspoons of vanilla extract. And with a hand or stand mixer, give it a good mix until everything is well combined and it's nice and fluffy. Should take about, say, 4 minutes. Okay, so as you can see, it's now lightened up and it's also nice and fluffy. So now with our cooled chocolate, we're going to just slowly pour it in as it's mixing. Now once that's mixed through, I have 2 cups of plain flour, and we're just going to pour that in as well. And we're just going to keep on mixing this until it's just combined. And next our star ingredient, and that's our Kit Kats. Now I've got a family size block. Just if you can't find family size blocks, just buy a number of smaller ones. You want enough that's going to fit inside a regular baking pan. So this is almost perfect. So I have a greased and lined baking pan here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour in half of our brownie mixture. And then we're going to place our Kit Kats just on top like so. Then it's a simple matter of topping up with the rest of our brownie mix. So we have a lovely Kit Kat center. Now once complete, we're going to place this into a preheated oven at 180 degrees Celsius or 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 40 minutes. And there we have some incredibly simple and easy Kit Kat brownies. Now as you saw, they're incredibly simple to make, but the flavors are so delicious. You have that lovely brownie on the outside, then when you mix in those delicious Kit Kats in the middle, you know without even tasting it, it's going to be simply delish. So to start this recipe off, into a microwave safe bowl, I'm going to place in 140 grams of dark chocolate, followed by 50 grams of butter. And we're going to place this into the microwave for 30 seconds at a time, give it a good stir each time until it's completely melted. Okay, now that it's all nicely melted, this is going to make our brownie portion of the cake. So we're going to place our melted chocolate and butter into the mixing bowl. Then we're going to follow that up with 1 egg, Then a quarter cup of firmly packed brown sugar and a quarter cup of all-purpose flour. And give it a good mix for about, say, 3 to 4 minutes until it's completely combined. Now I have a lined loaf pan, so we're just going to simply pour our brownie mix into the pan. And then we're going to place it into a preheated oven at 180 degrees Celsius or 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 minutes. Now while our brownie section is in the oven, we're going to work on our butter cake. So into a mixing bowl, I'm going to place in 120 grams or half a cup of softened butter. And we're going to follow that up with 100 grams or half a cup of sugar. And with a hand or stand mixer, we're going to cream this up for about 3 to 4 minutes until it's nice and creamy and white and fluffy. Okay, as you can see, it is now white and fluffy. So I've got 2 eggs, so I'm going to place in one at a time. I'm just going to let that mix through first. Okay, once that's mixed through, we're going to add in the second egg and just let it mix through completely as well. Okay, next I have 1 cup or 120 grams of self-raising flour. So I'm just going to pour that in. If you only have plain flour, use the same amount of plain flour but add a tablespoon of baking powder. And then 50 mils of milk. Okay, so once that's just combined, stop it straight away because we don't want to overmix it. Otherwise, you're going to have a more dense cake. Okay, so we've taken our brownie mixture out of the oven. So all we have to do now is just place our cake mixture on top. And now that's ready, we're going to place this back into the oven for a further 25 to 30 minutes, and you know what's ready? When you stick your skewer in the middle, it comes out clean. And there we have our absolutely lovely, absolutely delicious brownie butter cake. Now brownies by themselves are already super delicious, but so is a butter cake. So I figured, why not put them both together? Because honestly, it works so well. You have 2 separate tastes going and 2 separate textures. The thick brownie and the fluffy butter cake. And when you put them both together like this, they're going to taste simply delish. Now we're going to start this recipe off by making our brownie base. So into a microwave safe bowl, I'm going to place in 230 grams of dark chocolate, followed by the same amount or 1 cup of butter. And we're going to place this into the microwave on high for 30 seconds at a time. Give it a good stir each time until it's completely melted. Now that I've melted our chocolate and butter, I'm just going to pour it into a mixing bowl. And I've also let this mix cool down for about 10 minutes. Okay, so next into that, I'm going to place in 1.5 cups of sugar. Then half a cup of firmly packed brown sugar. Now I get asked a lot, why do I say firmly packed? The simple reason is, brown sugar is pretty moist, so if you don't firmly pack it down, you won't get the right amount of sugar. So it's strictly a measurement issue. And to enhance the flavour, a pinch of salt. Now with a hand or stand mixer, we're going to whisk this for about 3 to 4 minutes, just until everything is well combined and the sugar is dissolved. Now once mixed, I've got 4 eggs, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add in 1 at a time, let that egg mix through, then we're going to add the second egg, third egg and so forth. By mixing them 1 at a time, they just mix in far better than if you did them all at the same time. Okay, now that that's mixed through, I'm just going to add in a tablespoon of vanilla extract, then a quarter cup of cocoa powder, and finally 1 cup of all-purpose flour. And just mix it through to combine. Now lastly, I have a lined baking tray and we just have to pour our brownie mixture into our tray. Okay, so once ready, we're going to place this into a preheated oven at 180 degrees Celsius or 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 35 minutes. Now I've taken our brownie layer out of the oven and I have it cooling down, so while it's cooling down into a mixing bowl, I'm going to place in half a cup or 115 grams of softened butter, and we're just going to beat that up until it comes up pale and creamy. As you can see, it's now pale and creamy. So to that I'm going to add in 2 cups of confectionery sugar or icing sugar, as well as 2 tablespoons of milk. And we're going to beat this on a low speed for about 2 to 3 minutes until it's well combined. Now of course this is by taste, but I'm going to add in about a teaspoon of peppermint essence. Of course it's really up to you on how strong that you want it. Now for the final ingredient for this layer, now this is completely optional, it's strictly for looks, but for peppermint I'm going to use some green food colouring. Just add in a few drops. And you can make it as green or as light as you like. Okay, so back to our first layer, which is the brownie layer. Now I've let this completely cool down, and all we have to do now is just place on our second peppermint layer. Now once completely covered, just simply place this into the fridge while we get started on the third and final layer. Okay, so our final layer is just two simple ingredients. First off, half a cup or 115 grams of butter, and about 200 grams of chocolate chips. But any chocolate will do, just choose your favourite. And I'm going to place this into the microwave for 30 seconds at a time, stirring each time until it's melted. So I've just poured our melted chocolate on top of our mint layer. So just move it side to side just to even it all out. And once it's all poured on and covered, we're going to place this into the fridge for about 3 to 4 hours to completely set. Now I've just sliced up our lovely treats and look at those, don't they look delicious? Starting off with that lovely brownie base, then you have that mint center, oh I love mint. Topped off with a buttery chocolate ganache. Honestly, this recipe has everything going for it. It is definitely something you're going to have more than one piece of. But, of course, make sure you're in moderation. And the best part is, it's homemade, simple to make, and it tastes simply delish. Now we're going to start this off with our butter and chocolate. So into a microwave safe bowl, I'm going to place in 250 grams or 1 cup of butter, followed by 200 grams of dark chocolate. So now I'm going to place this into the microwave for 30 seconds at a time. Give it a good stir each time until it's completely melted and well combined. Okay, so next I'm going to place in 250 grams or 1 1/4 cups of brown sugar, followed by 1 1/4 cups of self-raising flour or plain flour, and just add a teaspoon of baking powder, and 1/4 cup of cocoa powder. And I've taken our mix out of the microwave and I've let it cool down just for a couple of minutes. So we're just going to pour that right into our bowl. And we're going to mix this through for a couple of minutes until it's well combined and nice and creamy. Okay, now lastly I've got 4 eggs, so we're going to place in 1 egg at a time, let it mix through, then we're going to place in the second egg, let it mix through, and so forth. Just until all the eggs are well combined. Okay, now that's mixed through, I've just got a shallow pan here. I've given it a good grease with some cooking spray oil. You can also use some butter. So we're just going to place our mixture into the pan. And now we're going to place this into a preheated oven at 180 degrees Celsius or 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 45 minutes. Now I've just taken our brownie mix out of the oven. While it's cooling down, we're going to work on our lovely topping. So I have some candy canes here in a Ziploc bag. Honestly, it's up to you how many you want to use. I've got about 12 here I think, but you can use twice the amount or half the amount. So just with a rolling pin, we're just going to break them up into small, fine pieces. Now lastly I have 250 grams of white chocolate chips. To that I'm just going to add about half a cup of cream. Any cream will do, thickened cream, whipping cream. And we're going to place this into the microwave for 30 seconds at a time. And we're going to stir it each time until it's completely melted and well combined. Now all we have to do is pour our ganache on top of our brownie mixture. And then on top of that we're just going to sprinkle on our crushed up candy canes. And once done, just simply place it in the fridge for about an hour to completely cool. And there we have it, some very delicious candy cane brownies. So you have that lovely chocolate moist brownie, but it's also topped off with some lovely white chocolate ganache. And then topped off with that crunchy, distinctive candy cane topping. And as with all my recipes, it's incredibly simple to make. And we all know, when it's simple but full of flavour, they taste simply delish.